Hey, thanks for catching today's hack and play on Friday. I'm going to do only an hour today instead of the normal 2 hours, so that way I can go have some fun. But one thing I wanted to come back on is to work on the Commerce API module for Drupal's Commerce Core module. So Commerce turns Drupal into an e-commerce framework, and then the Commerce API module takes Drupal's JSON API implementation and makes it work with Commerce. One of the big things is like add to cart, because adding to cart is a multi-step operation behind the scenes. You have a purchasable entity that has to resolve to a specific order type and has to be added to a new or existing cart. So there's a lot of endpoints that just makes it be a more elegant API experience. And one of my old cohorts, Jonathan, brought up that there's a really big missing endpoint. So we can allow adding, we can allow updating and editing, but any of the updates and edits are on single order items, and that's kind of a really big performance hit, especially if you need a bulk delete. We follow the JSON API spec. So if we were to go to jasonapi.org, I believe that's the URL. If we view the specification and if we look at deleting to make a delete, and it's, or maybe it's not supposed to, responses, no content, the server must return. Oh, here we go. So to the JSON API specification, which is what is in Drupal.org as the JSON API module. So a server must return a 204 no content status code if a deletion request is successful and no content is returned. Although I think I read this wrong, and we can return if a deletion request is successful and no content is returned. Well, you know what? Maybe I've been wrong this entire time with how we set up the Commerce API module. So the problem is that we would delete an order item, but then we'd have to go fetch the updated cart again. So it's delete and then go fetch the cart. But I wonder if we can update it to, or if we can modify it to return the cart. So I'm going to quick do a composer update to make sure my code is correct or up to date. And let's look at the core JSON API module as it is right now. Oh, Drupal core tracking number requires 8, only satisfied by. Well, that's a bummer. This module is not ready for Drupal 9. How was I able to get onto Drupal 9 with my local code base then? What in the world? All right, I'm just gonna have to remove this thing. Or actually, let's see if there's a little workaround. Man, I only wanted to spend an hour. I wanted to get this quick. Open maintainer. All right, automated Drupal rector fixes. Please be an issue fork. It is not. So let's do this. We're gonna make a quick little workaround. All right, let's go edit this branch to add this core dependency. Oh, it doesn't even have a composer.json. So let's first edit this file. Commit that change. And then let's get a quick and easy composer JSON file that we can copy over. Say token. This should be pretty great. Let's go to the repo. Come on, I just want to quick work on this. Find file. I gotta go to the web IDE to add. No, I can do new file. We're gonna add a composer.json. Paste this. Drupal. What is it? Tracking number. Description is right here. That is all we need. And now we can actually post. We can go open the merge request and we can fix my local composer JSON. Well, by fix, I mean we're going to just make it even messer, bigger mess, tracking number. So what we can do now that we have issue forks in Drupal.org is we can point to it as a fork. And again, the only reason I'm doing this is because I just wanted to work on Commerce API and I try to get my local Commerce 2.x environment onto Drupal 9. Mind you, this like local 2.x environment has been around since 2015, so it is very old. And I just finally got it upgraded. So clone, we want to get the, I'm just going to clone with SSH. So this is the URL. And this is the branch we need. So I'm going to copy that branch name. And if we go to tracking number, we can say it is dev dash that branch. Let's go ahead and do a composer update. So we see now it installed, it didn't conflict because we were able to point to our issue fork. So not the main point of the stream today, but hopefully that's a neat little lesson if you're a Drupal developer and stuck on the whole 8 to 9 contrib mayhem. We'll see if this passes. If it does not, then I am going to just deal with the current state I have. All right, the main thing I want to get back to was the JSON API module. GUIP. Yeah, all right. We're just going to leave that as is. So JSON API, we want to look at the controller, the entity resource, and I want to see how it handles deleting relationships. So patch individual, delete, replace relationship data, remove from relationship data. It returns a response. It returns the relationships. You know what? Let's go to this issue, or to that, back to the Commerce API project, and let's make a feature request to fix Commerce API. So Commerce API is built on top of JSON API resources, which is a contrib that I helped build alongside Gabe. Gabe is one of the core maintainers for JSON API and the spec itself. So a lot of Commerce API work was basically building a possible PHP API to the JSON API module and core. Cart, remove item resource. Yeah, we should fix this. So let's make an issue. I don't know what we would return here, because the idea is that this mimics a relationship. Return order item relationship instead of no content from. It's going to copy resource name, call it a feature, 8.x1.x. I'm not sure why, but I thought JSON API spec wanted a 204 no content on deletion. I was wrong. Copy this here. I misread this. Even in the core JSON API relationship routes, it returns the relationship data when an item is removed. Let's return the order item relationship. So when we have cart add resource, we return the primary data, which is the order items. We can return the order items and allows leveraging includes for the updated order object, just like we do in add and update ops. It's a good enough issue to start with, but that's not going to be the main focus of today. All right, so we want to create a resource that allows updating multiple order items at once. The problem is that the JSON API spec doesn't support this at all. The route should be a patch to carts, commerce order items. Let's look at our current routes. Routing, routes. We have something similar to that. So we have update item. Oh, we don't. Let's see what we've got here. Cart remove item. So we've got a delete to that route. And that is it. So JSON API. Let's read the spec a little bit. So that way we can stay somewhat updating relationships, although relationships can be defined. So this is the one problem. I'll make a note. I'm going to make a note here. Technically, the cart's commerce order item is a relationship route which allows the following ops. So I'm going to say operations based on what I am reading via the spec. Because here's one thing too, like sometimes API things, it's like it's nice to have it, it's just nice to have, but like you follow a specification for a reason. So I want to take this time to at least dive into the spec and figure out how we're going to build this endpoint to meet the JSON API specification. Because if we break the API specification, that means the interoperability it provides, like, right, it's JSON API spec. You can use tooling. Well, if we break that spec, the tooling's broken, which means that we may as well have wrote a custom API to begin with. It's a lot of bike shedding and nitty gritty, but it is what it is. So let's say we don't have a get route. This is correct. Yeah, that's odd that we don't. So let's read. So creating resources, creating, updating, fetching data, fetching relationships. This would be get so this is a get. So it get carts returns relationship resource objects. And that is exactly what is defined here. We'll copy this. Let's copy a post. So really how we have cart add, we don't have carts. We have cart add because it's kind of more like an RPC operation, a remote procedure call, because we can't just, or we could have done a post carts, I guess. Actually, no, post carts would have created a new one, and we can't do post cart /ID because we actually don't know what order we're adding it to. So again, there's some wiggle room with the spec. We're meeting the data format, but in terms of like some of the routes, It's a little bit different, but it is one thing too. JSON API does not specify what routes should look like, but we're trying to also match what Drupal has built out of the box. So updating relationships. So updating to many. So we can do patch, post, and delete. So let's copy. So we've got post. This is patch, post, delete. So patch, post, and delete. We have this currently implemented. Delete. Cart remove item is cart remove order item resource. And this finds the resource identifiers that were posted and then removes those order items from the cart. Implemented removes order item items provided as resource as relationship resource objects and payload, and we'll say request body. We do not implement this as we have carts add. I actually opened an issue about this. So we don't have that because we have carts add would be implemented, and I'm going to copy this issue ID I created. Allow adding items to a specific cart. And I'm going to update that too. For the relationship route. All right, so that fits more of how JSON API is expected to work. I had a bad suggestion. And this, so let's look at patch. TBD if this is what we need. This may be the viable HTTP verb and endpoint. So I'm going to save that comment and go back to reading the spec. All right, so we've decided that, or not decided, but we know that the desired route is carts, commerce orders, items, because that is the relationship route or path, and it should be a patch because we're modifying. Right now we have get would return, which we don't actually have that implemented. Patch is what's not implemented. Post would be implemented in another issue I've created, and we have delete, which removes items. So the main thing to figure out here is, can we use the patch endpoint to bulk update the items that are referenced? I think not, because patch is for modifying the relationship. So a server must reply to post, patch, post, and delete. For all request types, the body must contain a data member whose value is an empty array or an array of resource identifier objects. So I'm going to link here. I'm going to edit my comment. Per the spec. If a client makes a patch request to the URL, the server must either completely replace every member of the relationship or return an appropriate error response. That actually, this is the most pertinent part. The patch is meant for adding and removing relationship items, not modifying. The patch request to a relationship is intended for bulk adding or removing of related items, not modifying the items themselves. And that's exactly what I was afraid of. If a client makes a post, it must add and delete. We already have that added in there. Oh, maybe this is one. So if the client makes a delete, it must delete the specified members. This ties into an issue I created earlier about if delete should return a body. So if the client makes a delete request to the URL, must delete the specified members or return a 403. If all the specified resources are able to be removed, must return a successful response. Relationship members are specified the same way, blah, blah, blah. RFC 7231 specifies a delete request may include a body, but that a server may reject the request. The spec defines the semantics of a server. Okay, so that's... okay, so I think there's nothing to... The request that we want to create can't be created. Technically, the desired route cannot be created as it violates the JSON. Sorry, I've got like something in my throat and I forgot to get a water. So what we actually need is there is an extension being proposed called Atomic Operations. And the idea is that you can, using atomic operations, you can provide an op and various extra. You can specify. Sorry. With atomic, you should be able to do multiple items at once. Or is that... yeah. Perform multiple operations in a linear and atomic manner. If we were to go to Drupal.org, project JSON API operations, this was initially implemented. If we look at the repository, I'm going to work on a follow-up comment. This issue is more about being able to perform simultaneous atomic operations, which is an extension of the spec. So if we look at, I actually have never looked at this module. So it extends, just requires JSON API, routing, route callbacks. Let's see what it has in its routes. Operations handler. So we get the operations URL with a patch. It has been implemented here. We go to controller, operations handler. Try to see here. So responses, it does an array reduce and it parses the data. It reads the op and performs a sub request on the URL. This takes the operations and performs sub requests for each one. do not believe this satisfies the desired outcome because we're performing a handful of individual requests versus modifying the order items in a single main request. And the main concern is a performance improvement. So that way you can just bulk update all of the known order objects or order item objects. And this is the one problem with commerce, or I guess anything that has a lot of relationships, because an order item in commerce doesn't stand on its own. It has to be attached to a order, and in reality, it should be nested. That should be like a nested property. So you could do that in a nested property, no problem. It's just how do we respect the spec while doing this? So I'm going to try to think of a crafty way that we can do this. So I'm going to pop open an HTTP request file and just say we have patch. We have commerce, and it would be JSON API, carts, ABC 1, 2, 3, items. And let's copy an example data structure. So the commerce API module at least has a lot of tests. Just about everything has test coverage. So I should be able to copy some kind of examples. Even kernel tests for running requests. Cart update item resource. So these are just updating order items. Cart add. Let's say I got functional. And we'll go to cart. Let's do cart remove item. Let's test remove item. So we just have a data object here. So let's go back to the spec and try to get creative with designing our API. And I know sometimes this might seem really silly. Again, like bike shedding to the spec and taking time to design it, but it's like once you build an API and it's consumed, you can't just change it on a whim. It's something that will live forever, and it's not like a variable, like spending a while like naming a class or variable name. It's like this will be set in stone forever, and it is your little mark on the world. So I want to look at for the updating of relationships. So we have patch and we have delete. So it is somewhat the same. So delete, it says any items found in the array get removed. For patch, it's a wholesale replacement. So I think we can leverage that. It could be kind of dangerous, but we can leverage it. So this would be a so content type is application vendor API.json. That's technically the correct content type, and we're going to accept that as well. Yeah, move that below. And right now I'm mocking it as an HTTP file, so that way I can paste this into the issue as what I think the request would look like. And I guess I could have just copied this right here. So let's say that we have, how do we, so remove all items, same as delete call. So if we had this, if we did a patch with null, or I guess it would be null. This is the same as delete. Okay, so 3 separates the lines. So remove all, update quantities. So let's see. The main thing is updating quantity. And allow passing quantity 0 to act as a remove from cart, but honestly at that point you would just exclude it. You wouldn't need to do quantity 0. So let's copy this. So data would be an array. Updates the article. This is one to many. Here we go. One to many. Let's here back. So data, we have type is order item default. And ID is ABC123. I'm not going to actually find you out. We'll go UUID generator. One of these I know you go to, great. I can just copy paste it. So we have the order item ID here. And let's refresh the page to get another one. And we'll refresh one more time for a note. There was a third order item with the ID, but quantity was set to 0 in the user interface. So the client dropped it from the patch request. So this is my idea, is just let's get this patch in place with the type and ID. So that way we can bulk remove items at once. So that's the idea, is be able to bulk remove items. Now, the JSON API spec has given us some wiggle room. So we have a relationship link, object relationships. We have a data member whose array is empty, or an array of resource identifier objects. So resource identifier objects may contain a meta member whose value is a meta object that contains non-standard meta information. Update quantities and remove items with quantity of 0. Gotta make a little note right there. So what we can do is say, I'm gonna put it on the second one. So we'll say there's a meta. And do they have an example here of meta on something? A meta object. So we can have these items here and it can be read. It's not just like a output only, it's something you can consume and read. Make a note. The order item with ID, whatever I just copied, has its quantity updated to 5. I think that, why is this throwing me an error? Expected. What? Value expected. Got. All right, I don't know why that was freaking out, but it's good now. So this is my idea, is that, okay, so I'm gonna write this. Here is my proposal for allowing bulk deletion of order items, emphasize the and, ability to update quantities for an order. We will use the, I want to copy this patch. We will adhere to the specification for the patch for the What do we want to call that? Say for updating many relationships on the with a patch request. That's where I'll copy this. I'm trying to find the right words. Here is an example. Here is a to achieve manipulating the order items. We will leverage the code meta property to allow specifying quantity changes. This allows us to adhere to the spec and allow a common update operation without overpowering this endpoint. Example. I don't need to write example. I'll just the following is an example request to update quantities and remove items with a quantity of 0. So I'll copy this HTTP request and then I'll put in there was a third order item. I don't need it. Why did I write out third? That way there was a third order item with this ID. I'm going to cut that. Back in the code. Say, but the quantity was set to 0 in the user in the I'm going to say application interface. So the client dropped it from the patch request. No, there's a third order item from patch request so that it would be removed from the order. Then we'll copy this here. The order item with ID blah blah blah. Code had its quantity updated to 5. If the question remains, what happens if there are any violations in a bulk update? If an order item is removed, but an order item's quantity updated to an invalid value, do we allow the deletes and return errors for invalid quantity? That's the problem, and this is not handled in the spec. So if a client makes a patch request to URL from a too many relationship link, the server must either completely replace every member of the relationship, return an appropriate error response if some cannot be found, found or accessed, or return 403 if the replacement is not allowed. The spec only mentions the following in terms of a response. All right, so I like this, but the problem is, what is the response if something's not allowed? So I want to go back to the JSON API module itself. Again, sorry, to see what it does. So save the entity and validate. So this is remove item. We don't want remove item. That's what I was first looking at. Do patch multiple relationship. Update a too many relationship. So entity, get field name. The value is an array map of the meta. Field properties. So it maps the resource identifiers. It gets the entity, so it does a wholesale replacement, but it do patch this validate entity. I'm going to copy this relationship and let's maybe this will work. Oh, actually, it's just removing. Okay, I think this will work given the code in replace relationship data. We're going to link this. My only concern is that this validate, the problem is this validate on entity is going to validate only the entity. So my concern is that the validation only will validate the referenced, the ability to reference order items, and not a sub validation against each order item referenced. So the one problem is that calling validate on the entity just validates the references and that those are accessible or not. I'm going to say concerns ULLI deleted order items, track them before deleting. Let's see, hold on, we got to look at what do we do for cart remove item, cart remove item resource. We use the cart manager. And it deletes it. So we use the cart manager for everything to dispatch events, but the problem is we would be doing it in bulk. How does our cart form work? Add a cart form matter. Quantity widget, edit. Here we go. Edit quantity. How does this work inside our edit quantity for the form? So views form, low decimal, the numbers, validate form. Validates there. So view submit form for each quantity. Okay, so we do it over each item. We remove it and update it, but it has a validation. Track them before deleting. Delete order items. What if we call cart manager remove item and any other updates fail? We have data loss. Do we just track the items to be removed? Do we just track the items to be removed? Remove them manually from the order items orders item field and then validate. If validation passes, then we delete. I think that makes sense. Failed updates. What if validation fails on an order item? I'm going to say validation period. Validation. Calling validate on the order will only validate the order items reference field references, not the actual modified entities. I guess it's time to just start specking it out. I've got about 10 more minutes before I'm gonna hop off. Or actually, you know what? I know this was a short stream, but I don't think I have the mental capacity to actually hit this today. But this was like a huge bit of discovery right now. I first went from thinking like we can't do this to I think we can. It's just a matter of getting it set up or proofing it out. Now it's a matter of proofing it out. I may as well just web modules, commerce, trib, commerce API. Check out. Pull. I'm just going to check out the branch. I guess, you know what? I am going to scaffold something up real quick. Like I said, I wasn't going to. So resource type, no, resources. We need to have wait, cart clear, right? Is this where we had it? Now I don't even remember. What was the routes? Items. So cart remove. So cart remove. So let's do. Let's see, we have cart update item. So cart. Oh. So that's the singular one. Let's just do cart items resource. I don't like that name, but whatever. This is going to be good enough. Namespace, Drupal, commerce, API, resource, final class, cart items resource, extends, cart resource base, carts, commerce, order, items. So the better name would actually be cart patch. I want to say cart update items. So there's cart update item and cart update items. It's very similar, but I'm just going to go with that name. So let's see what we need to add here. So create, shim, resource type, delete an order item from the cart. Let's just go through. Try to spec this out. So this returns null. We don't want that to be the case. We want this to be like cart update item. So primary data, so commerce order item, resource object, that's an array. No, cart add. Yeah, that's how we work, is we return the order items. Well, those are the order items that we're added, but we're going to do a return primary resource object, order items, resource create from entity. Let's just do order items search load. That had to be refreshed. So we'll do order items equals array map, commerce order, items. Did this backward. Yeah, array map has the callable first. Array filter is completely different. Thanks, PHP. So this will be an order item interface that we return. And we'll return this resource type repository. Here, bring this one down so you can read this a little bit easier. So array map, let's get from the, okay, so this converts, so with how this works right now is it will just take the relationship and return the relationship data. And if we looked at entity resource, static relationship response requires body. This get relationship, entity get, resource relationship is create from entity resource. Create from entity relationship data. Okay, so it's not perfect. Just copy reference. Not perfect. Let's see there. All right. But let's look at the delete. Or no. Not delete. Cart remove item. Yeah, cart remove item because that allows us to do so let's here. So resource identifiers. We need to get all the resource identifiers for the order items and the request. That's where we need the inner. In fact, we may as well just copy the database connection for a transaction because it's going to be needed. And we'll copy the injection create method. I'll just go from there. All right, so we have the resource identifiers. So we have technically need to do a original order items equals order commerce order get items commerce order set items to an empty array because patch is an operation that does a wholesale reset. Then for each resource identifiers, it would go, we would load it, but if it's get items, or better yet, I have an idea. Let's just say we need to track items that should be removed without deleting everything. So one thing I want to try to do this. So if not has order item does not exist. We don't want to run cart. I don't want to do cart manager add. So let's go back. So original order items, we set it. So we'll do commerce order add item. Order item. So we'll say since the order item existed in the array, we will keep it. So let's get the resource identifier meta. Meta equals here. If is set, if we'll just do if not empty. Oh wait, we don't want to do if not empty. So if is set meta. Quantity and is numeric. We want to do is numeric. Yeah, we'll do is int. We'll do is numeric because what if somebody's using decimal points and floating points for their quantities? Because people do that. So if is numeric, if is set quantity and is numeric quantity, order item set quantity made a quantity order item validate. Actually, we'll say to do validate this thing somehow. And we'll say original order items order. I don't know if we want to save it right here. Well, we'll just do order item save and bail immediately. So we'll say validate this thing somehow and bail immediately. So for each, and then we can say removed order items equals array diff key. I think it would be array diff key. One second. So let's look at key items, the order items, but are they keyed? This reference these keyed by field item deltas. That's not what we want. We don't want to do array diff key then. So removed order items. Oh, I know what we can do. So we don't need this down here anymore. We're going to just figure it out. So removed order items equals array filter. This is where map and array are backwards because this now takes the array first. So we'll take original order items and do a function. This can actually be a static function because we don't need any. Do order item order item interface order item. I love how I was like, I don't have time for this, and it's gonna be specced out. So use commerce order. Oh, let's do. So we can say. So we set the items, then we'll say current order item IDs equals commerce order get item. I don't want to do get items, so let's do. We'll put it here. We'll do an empty array or I guess we could do has item. Yeah, we'll do has item in there. So static function use commerce order return commerce order has item order item. For each removed order items as removed order item, this cart manager delete remove order item order item. Do not save. We want to do a save at the end. Let's see. Is this going to fail? Remove order item. This remove item. Okay. So we already removed it, and this would cause a recalculation if we need to, but we don't have to worry about that. Let's do save. And then we return it. Oh, that worked out. So let's rename this cart update items. Okay, let's say I reply to this. Well, that's not the button I want to press. So then I'm going to add this route. I'm going to just post it as a patch and then see if Jonathan can review it. So this is a patch. And I guess that's it. Oh no, the cart update items. So it's a patch to that route. Let's go add it up here. Because this cart update item is a single item. Well, that was unexpected. I didn't think that would work out so well. I really went into this not knowing. Add POC resource commit and push. And refresh this page really quick. I'm gonna open a merge request. So, okay. In an hour, I went from thinking this wouldn't work or fit the spec to believing it will work and pushing a proof of concept MR. Let's take it from here. All right, so I'm glad I didn't bail. I'm glad I took the extra 15 minutes just to work on this. Thanks for tuning in. Hope it was interesting. Again, sorry for the delay because of the tracker tracking number module not being D9 ready, and I was trying to run an update, but I think this was pretty fruitful. So thanks. I'll be back on Monday doing a simplytest.me development stream at 2 p.m. Central.